跟住落嚟啦，我哋會以英語進行第二場嘅圓桌會議㗎。Next, we will move into our second panel discussion of the day, conducted in English. The topic is navigating the human-AI collaboration landscape, the often neglected element, where we will explore the often overlooked dynamics in human-AI collaboration. Please welcome our moderator, Mr. Dan Wong, Asia AI Forum Director, the Conference Board. Please welcome Mr. Dan Wong. Put your hands together for Mr. Dan Wong. Welcome. And our panelists including Mr. MK Ajay, Chief Executive Officer, Wisdom Tomorrow. Welcome. And also Mr. Eric Stryson, Managing Director, Global Services, the Global Insitute for Tomorrow. And also Ms. Rachel Chan, Founder and Chief Catalyst, InnoFoco Limited, and co-founder Esperanza. Let's welcome them to the stage. Welcome.
Thank you. Please have a seat.
Yes, and just a reminder, to enhance audience interaction, we have added a live Slido poll for this panel. When prompted by our speaker, please scan the QR code on the top right. Select Aspire Stage and submit your response. And now, over to you, Mr. Dan Wong. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Human-AI Collaboration panel, The Missing Element. This panel is about the often cited utopia, the paradise of humans and AI collaborating, or maybe the lack thereof. And this panel is very much about what's happening today, right before our eyes, not about what's going to happen in the far future. So to kick this off, I'm going to have two panel questions, okay? And the first panel question, I'll describe a little bit what this is, and so please be ready with your phone to do a Slido response. And if they can queue up the two questions, the first question might feel like a quiz question to you. It's not a quiz question. We're not trying to know what you know. It's going to help us to calibrate our discussion. And so for this first question is, have you heard of this very famous memo by Shopify CEO around AI? Okay? It went viral actually 2 months ago. How many of you have actually heard of that? Just to get a feeling here from the group here. And let's take a look, 50-50, okay. All right, 60-40. Let's keep this open for a little bit more. All right, interesting, okay. It's interesting because depending on the industry that you're in, I think awareness of things like this is quite different, right? So let's take a look. All right, maybe give a little bit, 2 more seconds, 5 more seconds. All right. Okay. All right, okay, well, it's going forward. Very interesting. Okay, so most of you do know about it, okay? So if I'm going to stop the voting now, look at 77% of the people, of no. Most people here don't know about this, okay? So that's good to know, all right? Next question, okay? And I think about like 25%, a quarter of you have heard about it. Okay, the next question is, how do you feel about it? Okay, for those of you who have seen this memo, what's your feeling about this? So please cue the second question, right? So here's what's your feeling, okay? One feeling can be, you know what? We got to wake up. We got to do exactly what Shopify did. So that's kind of option number one. Option number two, you know what? Each industry, each company is different. We don't have to go all in AI like Shopify did. That's number two, okay? Each one's different. We do it at our different pace. Number three question is, is a little bit like, you know what? This is all like publicity. All these tech companies, they just want to get news coverage, and so it's all publicity. Final one is FOMO, fear of missing out. I'm scared of not doing something, but I'm also scared that if I do something, I'll fail. So I want to get your feeling. How do you feel about this memo? All right? And I think the first one was actually, I was surprised. I would expect a little bit more people to have heard about it, but it's over 70+% don't. All right, so let's kind of take a quick look here. It looks like right now there are two types of ones taking the floor, 40% each. One is a wake-up call. We need to do the same thing. Number two is fear of missing out, like this conflicted feeling. All right, okay. So let's close the voting. So that's very good. Okay, very good to start our discussion. I think for those of you, and please maybe cue up the slide. For those of you who don't know this memo, and there's a slide that kind of tells you what it is. There's no real need to kind of read everything through this one. And I'll give you, there are really three main points in this CEO. And by the way, Shopify is one of the largest e-commerce companies in the world, all right? And it was on April 7th. On April 7th, almost exactly 2 months ago, it was a leaked memo. So this memo was only to his employees, okay? But it got leaked. And it got leaked, and there are 3 key points. Number 1, the CEO said, use of AI is a baseline requirement. In other words, not optional. If you work for Shopify, you must use AI, number 1. Number 2, to make this real, your performance appraisal, your performance review will include use of AI, number 2. Number 3 point, if you want to bring more people into your team, if you want to hire somebody, I'm sorry. You must justify first why AI cannot do it. I'll say that again. In other words, you must first hire an AI before you hire a human. Okay, so these are some of the relevant points from this memo. This memo came up, it was quite viral. There was some news that said, Forbes said, you know what? This is now the new standard for modern leadership, is one. Others have said, oh, what a bold ultimatum. I guess to who is the question, right? So anyhow, that is actually what this memo is, and it kind of caused a lot of reflection, I think, within the industry, but maybe not enough, all right? So with this, let's kind of put our focus back with the panelists here. Who is going to help us address some of these very tricky questions? And I think we have a very interesting panel here today that is different in the sense that this panel, there are no technologists besides me. This is a technology exhibition and conference, but these are experts in the areas of organizational design, organizational psychology, human capital development, and so these are the experts that will help us. I'll do a quick introduction to all of our experts here, and I'll start with you, Rachel. Rachel is the co-founder of an organization called Esperanza, and I don't know how many of you know Esperanza. Rachel's other co-founder is the ex-finance secretary of Hong Kong, John Tsang, actually the longest-serving financial secretary. And so Esperanza is an organization that advocates a new way of living, learning, and working. So it's more than just working when we're talking about human-AI collaboration. Rachel is also the founder of InnoFoco. And InnoFoco is an organization that is driving innovation capability, ecosystem building, really across public, private, nonprofit sectors, right? And in addition to that, Rachel is also a Sloan Fellow at the London Business School, adjunct professor at University of Hong Kong. And so that's Rachel. Next, I will introduce, on this side, I guess I'll jump to Ajay. Ajay is 20 plus years chief HR officer at organizations like Colgate-Palmolive, John Swire & Sons, across places like Hong Kong, Mumbai, Kuala Lumpur, New York City. Now, Ajay is the founder of Wisdom Tomorrow, and Wisdom Tomorrow is a transformation advisory, helping organizations really try to navigate the very, very tricky human and organizational challenges that we face today. Last but not least is Eric. Eric is the MD of the Global Insitute for Tomorrow. And the Global Institute for Tomorrow is an independent think tank. They're a leadership development and advisory around the type of global awareness and critical thinking that's really, really needed, especially in this era of AI taking over, in addition to the way of thinking about technology in a new way. Right, so these are our panelists to address the question. Right? So next I will bring it back to you. All right? And the question then becomes, okay, you just saw the memo. All right? Does that CEO memo feel like human collaboration to you? And by the way, I mean, is this whole idea around human AI collaboration, is this really just us tricking ourselves? I mean, making us feel good? Because after all, isn't it true that AI is doing so well now? In so many areas, it is doing better than humans. I don't know how many have heard there's a new benchmark called Humanity's Last Exam. It's so advanced, they had to find experts around the world to try to measure how smart it is. And so in some ways, has this caused us to feel like, you know what, let's just prematurely give up on the human. All right, so let me hand it to you. Really, is this just a myth? Who wants to go first? Rachel.
Let me start with another news story. You talk
Please.
about Shopify CEO. Some of you may also have heard about Duolingo. It's one of the biggest edtech company in the world, making a lot of money. Their CEO make a similar declaration, I think more or less the same
Around the same time, yeah.
as the Shopify CEO. But then he drew a lot of criticisms, backlashes from his employees, from his contractors, and also from his customers, the users. So in the end, he had to withdraw his AI first policy, saying that, oh, I didn't mean that we're going to use AI for everything. We are just going to use AI to accelerate and improve our product offerings. So I think the lesson from this story is productivity gain is just one side of the AI equation. So let's discuss what should be the other aspect of the AI equation.
That's really interesting because if you search Duolingo, what happened with Duolingo, they removed all the announcements from their social media. After they removed all this stuff. So if you try to search for it now, you may not find it on Duolingo anymore, but you might find other reports. So that's how quickly the backlash came, right? But that's a good, great to bring up that. Eric, you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that these tools will be increasingly incorporated into all aspects of business and professional work. I think what the memo and the backlash shows is an overemphasis on the transactional nature of the tools in organizations. And I think people reacted to it because it highlights that they have overlooked what is one of the more fundamental aspects of business and work, which is the social function. I think there's too much hype around the potential for one person, single founder, unicorn companies in the next few years. And we forget that very few of us actually want to work isolated by ourselves with algorithms and robots. And so I think there's a backlash because they forgot that fundamentally work serves a social function in society. No doubt we will have to integrate these tools, but I think we don't want to work by ourselves with robots. We need to enhance the relational value within organizations, and we can do that by using these tools, which we can talk a little bit about.
Okay. Ajay?
Yeah, from what I'm seeing, and as you know, Dan, we do work with a lot of companies deploying AI. I don't see too much of human-AI collaboration, to be very honest. AI, I think, benefits the large owners, company owners, to drive efficiency, to process transactions faster, like Eric said. But to collaborate with AI, there is a certain level of skill you need as a human. The questions you ask, the sort of critical big picture thinking that you have. And if you know enough about a domain, you can get more out of AI. There is another big problem that I see in the work that we do. It is in most companies, barring very few exceptions, human resources practices are not designed to engage human AI collaboration. And that is because human resources today use AI only to get efficiency. So I would say generally, there is very less collaboration in the way things are designed at the moment. Everybody is rushing in, investing in AI because everyone else is doing, because they want productivity. But I don't think we have skilled up humans enough, is what I'm seeing at the moment.
I believe there's a huge knowing and learning and doing gap here. According to one study, 54% of the executives believe that their companies will not exist by 2030 if they don't embrace AI. But only 10% of the executives feel that their jobs will be threatened. So it's none of my business, it's your business. And they're not doing anything. And to me, there's one single word here, is apathy. People don't care enough. I don't care enough to learn exactly what AI is, what this technology can and can't do for us. And then we don't care. CEOs, HRs, they don't care about their people. They don't care about how, in this talk about AI advancement, what will happen to our employees. And what actually they miss, a big chunk of it is, if they don't care about their employees, it means they don't care about their companies. As simple as that.
Yeah, I think from that, I'm going to bring two aspects that's very interesting in your comment just now. I think you said that people actually don't care, but they don't care from two perspectives. They themselves don't care. They're like the human feels like it's none of my business, it's somebody else's business. But then number two, even more important than that, even at maybe a work level, the people who are responsible for making decisions on this, they in a way don't care, maybe beyond just the fact that I just want to cut some cost here. And I think it's very, very true. Lots of organizations I talk to, if it comes down to it, it's actually the human is really neglected. It's how do I squeeze a bit more cost efficiency? And I want to also tie that back, Eric, to what you said a bit as well. Is I think lots of times in lots of discussions, we're so focused on just work itself. But a little bit, I think what's very clear now is that technology like AI is going beyond just work in some ways. And to your point, Eric, work is a piece of kind of human life in a way. And AI is kind of suffusing both work life and personal life. And so there are a couple themes, I think, that I'm taking away from what we were talking about. And so maybe let's dig a little bit more then, okay? So given this situation, maybe given this lack maybe of the focus on humans, what can be done in a way? Given the idea that let's to the extent you agree that we're not just trying to squeeze cost reduction, okay? To extent we believe that, how should we think about the things that we can do? Maybe both those of you in the audience that are leaders in your organizations, but even those of you that are kind of living through this yourselves, what do you think what are the things to consider? What are the things that people can do?
Sorry, before Eric, I just want to have a show of hands, question for the audience. How many of you, your organizations, are already doing something because of AI, responding to AI? How many of you?
Yeah, raise your hand. That's a really good question. Okay. I would say what? 20%?
30 maybe?
Okay,
yeah.
okay, all right, okay, good to know. Okay, so it's
Sorry,
about 20-some percent is your organization's taking some action. Yeah, Rachel, go ahead. Yeah.
No.
Okay, Eric, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would just pick up on what I think Ajay said about the role of HR and management in being more deliberate about the training and the guidelines for how to use these tools. One of the things that we've seen over the last year, maybe 18 months, we've been working with executives in large multinational companies and public sector managers for almost 20 years, 19 years. And some of the things we work with them on is critical thinking, conceptual thinking in developing business models, policy frameworks, and of course, what's so-called soft skills, communicating across cultures, asserting empathy, etc. I think one of the things that there is a great danger is that if there is no guidelines and training within organizations, we as humans have a great tendency to do what's called cognitive offloading, which is actually a strategy to preserve our mental energy, and that is to offload certain tasks to the machines. But what I've seen in the last year is some very strange and perverse offloading, such that even a few months ago when I asked a cohort of C-1 leaders in a large financial services firm to describe what they needed to do personally to achieve their development goals. They were all being targeted to get to the executive committee in the next 5 years. And they, when asked to write what they need to do in their own personal development plan, 80% of them had outsourced that to a GPT or a co-pilot. And so I think it's more pervasive than we think, where people who are time stretched and under pressure are offloading even very essential human activities to the GPT. And this, I think, needs to be reined in with guardrails within organizations.
That's really interesting. What you're saying is that the senior leadership, the C-1 leadership in terms of like planning their own career trajectory has offloaded that responsibility to a GPT. That's what you're saying. Okay.
Quite shocking.
That's quite worrisome, right? This is at the senior most levels. Yeah. Okay.
If I can clarify this, however, and I think this comes to something we can talk about later, what I see as some of the more vulnerable demographics for this phenomenon, they were managers from different ASEAN businesses, Southeast Asia businesses, for a Western multinational company. They knew what they wanted to say in a few words, but because they were self-conscious about their spoken and written English, they were non-native English speakers, they then relied on the GPT to elaborate to reach the word limit that we had given them. And that, I think, is an underappreciated pressure within multinational environments for non-native English speakers to use these tools, but then actually offload their ability to articulate.
Yeah, and I don't know if I can drag you out, Ajay, because I think this gets into a lot of the organizational designs, incentives, the role of HR, that of course you have many years of experience. I think maybe you can share a little bit, maybe a bit response to what Eric is saying, kind of, I mean, this is a real situation happening.
Yes.
I mean, from this perspective and years of experience, well, how would you respond to that?
Yes, the trend which I notice is we invest a lot in our physical science and technology, and we very quickly bring in technology related to robotics or machine into the workplace. But because we value maybe human well-being far less than profit as a big business, you don't find the same level of investment in something like neuroscience, for example. So there is a lot in a field of brain capital. And as you know, I've been very closely connected with the couple of research centers, including Harvard, which is now doing a lot of work around what the human brain knowledge mean in terms of the workplace. But funding is hard because the funding for wellness or brain capital doesn't make as much of profit as quickly as funding for AI or physical technology. So having more science coming into the workplace, I think, is very important. The second, which is more of my personal view, I think there is a lot of validity in some of the Eastern wisdom, because if you think about some of the philosophical systems from the East, Buddhism, Confucianism, or Taoism, they actually counterbalance and check this tendency for very short term, getting the money now view to building businesses and societies for the long term. So I think both of these are necessary, but to be very honest, I am not very optimistic, because not just in Hong Kong, and I'm sorry to say, I am a former CHRO. I think a lot of us in HR have become very complacent. We don't want to learn. We don't want to change. We are very happy doing what we have been doing in the past. And this needs to change. I think whether it is and I agree with Rachel, even CEOs need to think and learn and be very open to possibilities.
Well, yeah, connected to that, I mean, people need to care more, right? To your point, the CEO needs to care. The CHRO needs to care. And Rachel.
I want to pick up Eric and also Ajay's point, maybe Ajay's first. Yesterday, I picked up a piece in the South China Morning Post. Someone who used to work with one of our universities in Hong Kong said that, hey, it's a golden opportunity for Hong Kong to attract students from Harvard. But what we need to do now in Hong Kong is, I think Hong Kong universities offer too many courses in humanities. We should step up programs in STEM-related subjects. Yes and no, but I do have a fear, because around the world, it's not just Hong Kong actually. Most governments, education authorities, and businesses, they say, oh, we need to jump on the bandwagon of AI and technology. Let's invest more in AI literacy, digital literacy. But they forget one very important thing, which is human skills. And precisely because of AI, we need to invest a lot more in level up our human skills to make us more valuable. And if we lose sight of that, as parents, as government, as CEO, I don't see, really a good ending to that story. And the second point, picking up Eric's anecdotal story, I had another conversation with a professor. And his research interest is, what is the implication of AI on motivating employee? We talk about that, Ajay. If most of us, we only ask for average or slightly better than average answers and work, AI can do it. And if you're the boss, how can you incentivize your employees to go one step more and use their human brain, critical thinking, problem solving, communication, and all these higher level skills? And for you as an individual, how can you make use of AI? In Chinese we say 知己知彼，百戰百勝. Know thy enemy. How can you make use of AI to level up yourself, to enhance your job opportunities and your promotion prospects so that you can stand out from the other colleagues who only use ChatGPT or DeepSeek?
I 100% agree with you. I want to give a very recent incident that happened. I was speaking to the CEO of Asia Pacific of a very large American multinational whose products most of us use. They make shampoo and soap, and I won't name them because it was a confidential discussion. But this particular CEO, he basically said that he's very worried about his marketing team in the future, because what he said is a lot of what marketers do, market research, consumer insights, a lot of data related syndicated research, even the rolling out of a marketing plan, many of those tasks can be done by AI. And what is then needed in marketing is creative content building, a lot of creativity. And the question this person asked me was, how do you think we can build creativity? Because in his words, he said the most important skill in the future when AI does everything else that employees will need to have would be creative problem solving and ability to see the big picture. I think what you call critical thinking, Eric.
Yeah, but seriously, what I am worried, and that's what Esperanza has been trying to do, is with our current education system, the creativity that AI generated actually is better than human.
Yeah, but can I just provide a counterpoint? I think actually, from my own experience, the AI tools can support human creativity in some very novel ways. But individuals need to know how to use that. And also, this is particularly relevant for younger employees, fresh grads, young professionals. There needs to be an understanding of kind of where the benchmark is and what the desired outcome is. Now, that doesn't necessarily apply to creativity, because creativity is about pushing into new areas. But I think one other data point which is very relevant, the Anthropic CEO, Dario Amodei, just said last week that he fears 50% of fresh grads might be unemployable or unemployed over the next 5 years. And I think my own personal example, because I've seen this, and it is very much a question what we want young employees to be doing now, because I fear they don't know what the benchmark is until they actually go through the pain and struggle of working and getting feedback and learning. So my own personal example is I feel very blessed to have grown up before the era of smartphones. I got my first smartphone a year after I graduated university and started working. And of course now I use smartphones just like all of us, but I kind of know what it was like before and after. I also feel very blessed that I have 20 years working experience before AI, because I know what it took to develop a sense of quality standards and what was good enough. And now, I don't claim to be an expert, but if I use an AI, I have a sense of what I'm trying to create and what a standard is. I think young professionals don't have that. So part of education is trying to instill a work ethic and a sense of establishing standards before using the tools.
So, I mean, you can't even, like humans and AI cannot even collaborate unless the human, I guess, level of critical thinking and experience reaches a level that you can properly use these tools. It goes back a little bit to what it means to have the AI literacy, to use these tools, right? And I guess you're bringing out also maybe concern. I'm curious what the audience feels, right? Are we having now a generation of workers coming to the workforce that will miss this opportunity? And because they don't have the foundation of that experience, now they can't even use the tools properly. And with the tools advancing, we're talking not about collaboration. We're talking about this cognitive offloading at scale. How do you think about that?
Yeah, there was a recently concluded study called the Global Flourishing Study. It's the world's largest study of human flourishing, done over 23 countries by Harvard over 5 years, along with Gallup and Baylor. There was a very troubling statistic. In 21 out of the 23 countries that are studied, the young population in their 20s and in teenage have shown the lowest levels of mental health ever. And the levels of depression and anxiety are the highest ever in human history since the time of modern psychology. And what the researchers found, a very big barrier to mental wellness is something which is very close to addiction or dependence to digital screens, and AI actually is accelerating that particular trend. And the second point related to that, they found in the research is cognitive offloading and any sort of dependence on technology actually is in many ways, in a crude sense, shrinking or underdeveloping young brains. And all of this finally comes back, hits back as loss of economic productivity at a societal level. And no, I agree with you that you can use AI for creativity, but where I disagree is most companies do not guide youngsters. So it's not actually happening. I mean, you have the Anthropic CEO who's come and said about the job loss, but most other CEOs, big businesses, are lying about it, pretending that there would be no job loss. And I can tell you, as a former CHRO, there would be massive job loss and upheaval of professions, and nobody wants to talk about it. And this, I think, is a huge issue. And I think it's irresponsible, in my view.
I can't agree more. I am not too optimistic. A lot of people, I'm sure you've heard, don't worry, AI revolution is like industrial revolution. It will create more jobs than it displaces. Sorry, I don't think we will be this lucky this time. I think AI will destroy more jobs than creating new ones. Ajay, let me put a question to you. If you were the CEO, what would you start doing now?
There are two things I would do. One is I would invest heavily in the brain capital science, because it's important to know what's happening to people at a level of motivation, behavior, sentiment. I need to spend money, not just on other technologies. So that is number one. Second is I would scrap the way HR is done and build a new HR or new learning and development or new OD. This is absolutely critical. And it's not I'm not blaming only HR. I think HR is we get the HR we deserve, as they say, right? Because sometimes it's a CEO and board who makes HR people do what they do. I think these two are very important. And third is, I think we need to have metrics beyond monthly, quarterly sales and profit. GDP as a measure has limitations because it's well known, well proven that wealthy countries are not necessarily the happiest countries. So we need to have new KPIs and stock exchanges and GDP calculation and investors and analysts and bankers need to start putting value on things beyond sales and profit?
I think, Rachel, thank you for asking Ajay that question, because I think this brings us to this maybe final part of the discussion, right? Because you spend a lot of time talking about all the problems. And I think it's clear from this discussion that there are some big changes that are quite unprecedented in many, many ways, causing us, both as individuals, but also business leaders, to think about new ways forward. So a little bit the question is exactly, okay, so now what? We know the problems. What can we do concretely? And in a way, Ajay, it's quite stunning to hear from you, 20 plus years in the HR industry, to actually you say HR needs to change completely. And I think you know, coming from somebody else might be different, but this coming from you from inside the industry is quite stunning, right? But let's maybe, and maybe we will have a little bit of time for one or two questions from the audience, so please prepare your question as I ask a question back to the panel, right? Which is really back to this idea, okay, so now what can we do? How do we really, after all these and all these different challenges, how do we bring the human to the center? You know, I'm sure many in the audience will have the ability in their organizations to make a difference. What can be done? How can we bring the human back?
Let me have a quick check.
Different. Yeah.
Any of you have HR functions here? Any of you? Great, then we can talk a lot more.
Well,
and we have a great pool of people who can be the next generation of, I don't know what we call it if it's not HR. Actually, there's a report by World Economic Forum, someone may have read it, about future skills. And there's one skill that most of people, they don't talk a lot, which is as important as creativity, critical thinking, resilience, and which is talent management.
But I love that question to the audience. But I'm also going to add on top of that is this. Isn't this a return to what management was meant to be? Isn't management managing your talent? And why so many years ago suddenly it became a department to the side that you offload to your CHRO? Is it now, right? I mean, even though you're not an HR department, to the extent that you're a leader, isn't you? Aren't you the one making the decision on the resources? Just like the memo at the very beginning, you are in a position to decide: are you going to spend the money to hire a person, or you spend the money to hire an algorithm? Really, I mean, this is concretely happening now. And you don't, and actually it's often not the HR department that makes that decision. And so it comes back, the responsibility coming back to the leaders. I mean, that's the way it was supposed to be. Maybe we're making a way back, right? So anyhow, I'll let you respond to that.
I think the opportunity is to use the efficiency gains that AI promises to build a bit more space within organizational workflows to then develop the curiosity, the awareness, the people skills that are sorely needed. Sadly, the default management mode is to fill in efficiencies with more productivity and to see AI as a transactional tool to, it's the same as we've been told since the dawn of the computer that we would be working less because of all the efficiencies of automation and machines. Quite the opposite. We are now on call 24 hours a day with Slack messages, Zoom, WeChat, WhatsApp, everything, right? So we're assaulted 24 hours a day. It has actually done the reverse. And I think AI is going in the very same direction. The opportunity for the enlightened manager is to use the efficiency gains to build more space and therefore cultivate human skills, which are already lacking in organizations. And I have one good friend who has a management philosophy that I thought was quite profound, who says, you don't achieve results through people. You achieve people through results. And I think this is perhaps counterintuitive in an era where automation is replacing and companies are downsizing. But again, I come back to the first thing I said, which is the social function of business activity is a core human value in a civilized society. Nobody wants single-person companies surrounded by robots. I don't think so. Maybe in Silicon Valley.
And maybe not.
Yeah.
Ajay, very, very quickly, and then I think we're getting on time, we might have a chance for one or two questions from the audience, if okay, and then we'll wrap. And then what I will also say, and I think the panelists have agreed to this, if they're interested to talk a bit more, we will be on the side afterwards, because there's another panel here. We'll go off to the side by the speakers lounge, and anybody interested can come and talk to the panelists if you're interested. Please, Ajay, and then I'll open the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I will just say that we should, when we think of AI, we should think of it as humans and AI. And then we will be okay in the way we come up with strategy. We shouldn't just think AI deployment. We should think of it as human and AI deployment, or human and technology deployment, because the output comes in the interaction between a human and a technology, not one or the other. And that is the shift I think we have to make.
That's a pretty big mental shift, and that's certainly not in the narrative that we normally read in the media.
Let me
you had
just
a quick one. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think if I were the CEO, if I were a good CEO, I will see how I can make use of AI to develop and further the potential of my people. Because by doing this, I'm actually helping my business to become more sustainable. It's a win-win for everyone. AI can provide skills intelligence. Now it's very easy to know, Eric, what are your strengths and what are the things that you need to learn more in order that you can proceed to the next stage of a career. Very easy for me to say, oh, Ajay, if you want to do this, you should learn this and that. Just a click away. Skills-based hiring. Companies should no longer rely on experience, paper credential. It actually opens up and democratizes a lot of opportunities. Remove cognitive bias. No. I'm glad that none of you are HR. How many HR actually hire a person based on the first impression when that person walks into the room? How many HR hire people because, oh, this guy from an Ivy League school, he must be good? AI can help reduce this kind of bias. So.
Got it. Thank you for that. Let me give a chance to the audience. Does anybody want to ask a question, maybe one or two, very quickly? If not, we're going to wrap too. Any questions from the audience? Okay. If not, we have 1 minute. So I'm going to, one question. All right. In back? Okay. Okay, maybe only time for one question.
All right. Yeah. So I just want to share my perspective and also to hear from the panel's views as well. Myself is a C-level and also in the board. And we talk about it from a C-level or management perspective is what's the implication of AI to most of us. To me, I think there are two very key points I do want to share and also to hear the panel's views as well. Number one, I think for most of the executives that they position AI as a technology initiative and project, I don't think that's the right one. AI should be a more holistic perspective, affecting the whole organization and everything. And the second point is, from a management point of view, I think the AI implications is what put in the additional considerations from the management point of view is, to me, I think in addition to what Ajay has shared is human plus AI. To me is data will be the additional very key perspective the management needs to look into. Second thing, in terms of managing the people, that perspective. To me, right now, I'm seeing people as a combination of people and agent and robotics, to be honest. Because that's when we build up the productivity. Right now, a very key question is, what kind of functions should be handled by agent and robotics, and what kind of functions should be handled by real human beings? I think it's a very key topic. Is a lot of organizations need to look into. And then the third key element is I right now emphasize a lot is in terms of compliance and governance and risk, that will be the totally new perspective need to look into, for the whole AI landscape. So that's right now the philosophy that I embrace from the management point of view. And maybe just give back to the panelists to see us.
That's quite interesting. Actually, that's quite a good summary in general. So actually, it's a good summary. I don't know if you want to react to that. That's actually quite a good summary for our discussion today. Any quick reactions, and then we'll need to wrap.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. On the data, there is now a new concept called the ethics engine. Circuit Tracer is a recent framework which actually combines a view into people, data, as well as the technologies. And in a very transparent way, if you are a CEO or board, you can see how the AI is deciding, how the AI is processing information. And of course, like you said, it needs a very strong muscle of data analytics. And a lot of people are now considering a very new way of statistically analyzing it also. So couldn't agree more with you, but that's a very enlightened board view which you just shared. Thank you for that.
So if this, you know what, this is great because it's the first time I've done a panel where the audience have summed up the panel in a great way. So thank you for that. And I will give one last time, we're going to wrap. I'm going to let each one of you give one buzz line. We covered a lot of ground today, but if you want to say one thing to encapsulate what your key message today, what would it be? So one each. So
humans over AI.
Okay, got it. Eric.
No, I would just say to your comment, there's no one size fits all. There are principles that I think leadership and management need to think differently about now. To sum up, I mean, I think it's really within organizations, relational before transactional.
Okay, relational trust. And Rachel?
One big missing word, purpose. I think all organizations need to go back and think about your purpose. I actually asked ChatGPT how I can conclude this panel. It gives me a number of options, and I like this option. Let me share it. AI writes codes, but leaders create purposes. And good leaders can collaborate and integrate these two together.
That's great. And as moderator, I get to have one too, okay? So my buzz line is, in the era of AI, you are all CHROs, really. HR is no longer a function to offsource, so you're all CHROs. So with that, I want to thank the audience. I want to thank the panelists for your time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for your sharing. Let's take a photo together.